Is there a zoom function, or should I just...
No, there isn't. No.
Okay.
I'll do it in post-production.
Okay, here we go. All right, and it's just,
God is
it's
such a
rolling already.
perfectionist.
Is it rolling already?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, well, there we go.
Awesome.
I'll let you guys
Donald,
get started.
thank you so much for sitting down and
Great to see you,
chatting.
Bob.
Always good to see you. I've been following you, and we've been attending conferences like this since, I think my first one was in 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
We were in Orlando, and
Sounds right, yeah.
yeah. I remember your presentation. It would have been circa, I don't know, 2005, 2006. You were talking about spikes in data analysis, and you were talking about the advent of the Albanian accountant.
Oh, yes.
From
right,
forms and picking the first item on
right,
the
yes, the
drop-down
first
list.
country on the list and the first job on the list. So
Yes, yeah.
we sell a lot of software to Albanian accountants.
Right, and you know, and
And they're paid aardvarks.
Though that might be a funny thing, in business, a lot of business decisions can actually be made from erroneous data.
Oh,
Just
for
because
sure,
of
yes,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah. The
thing.
way data is actually captured.
Yeah.
It can be very misleading. One car manufacturer I worked with was analyzing warranty returns and discovered that the largest warranty returns were ABS brakes. And that's
Okay.
only because
Because it
that was top
started
of
with
the the top of the alphabetical list. Nobody was going to scroll all the way through to enter windscreen wipers when
Right.
they could just enter ABS brakes.
So should I rename my company to start with 3 A's?
That's right. Yeah, you get that in the in the old days you would get that in the telephone directory.
Right.
Remember? You used to get an AAA Windows or something would be. But it's actually very data can go wrong in many ways, and it can go wrong right from the beginning. It can go wrong from the moment it's captured, and there can be errors in the data capture. Some of these can be accidental. Some of these can be not quite deliberate, I wouldn't say, but they can be as artifacts of the process. And then, of course, data can be, many ways data can go wrong all the way to the point where it's analyzed. So one of the things I was talking about today in my presentation was this need to have not just what I call route knowledge, so the ability to know where things come from and be able to find your way through a system, but actually have what I call survey knowledge, which is how the whole thing hangs together. So the difference would be going to a city and that you don't know, but you can program in the GPS, or you can follow the train map or the transit map, and you can find your way around the city, but you only have route knowledge. While a local taxi driver or a local postman probably has survey knowledge, he knows how the whole thing hangs together in the structure.
Right.
So in our systems, what do we have? Do we have survey knowledge of a system, or do we have route knowledge of the system? And too often with business analysts, what they have is route knowledge. They know how to get a report, they know how to get to a specific thing, but they don't have survey knowledge of how their information system hangs together.
That's interesting. And I was talking to my daughter in her early 20s the other day about getting to a place, using technology to use GPS turn-by-turn directions.
Right.
And it was clear to me that she didn't know on a map where the location was.
Sure.
And
right,
if the phone battery went dead, or if GPS wasn't working for some reason, she wouldn't be able to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where in my head, I'm used to, envisioning an area and thinking, oh, well, it's southwest of here, and so,
Right, yeah.
I know where the major roads
Well,
are.
I'm quite serious. You can map that to information architecture, and you can look at business users, and you can look at some technical users. You might find people in the doing ETL within a system, and they may only know what they're working on. They may only know the data systems that they're actually integrating. They may not know how this all hangs together and how it relates to the business purpose.
Yeah. One of the themes that I think we keep hearing over and over again with the advent of self-service BI and self-service analytics is that, we grew up in technical service circles and we're used to solving problems with technology. And it's not about technology, it's about the business. It's
Right,
about
exactly, yeah.
enabling business decision makers and helping business leaders to make more informed decisions. So as you're talking about the modern analyst, what is it that we need to know? What is it that I need to know as a data professional, in this new generation of self-service analytics, to offer more value, to be able to solve problems?
Sure. I think the primary thing you need to know is that they are trying to solve business problems. And we have a tendency within the data management world to regard everyone as a potential criminal and sort of look at them as, I often say this, that we need to change our attitude from being gatekeepers to shopkeepers. That we need to think of ourselves, rather than kind of protecting some kind of core value, to actually think of ourselves as, how do we deliver core value to people? How do we get out and actually deliver people with the data they need, the tools they need, the services they need, in order to make better business decisions and to take business actions? So that's one of the key things. It's a kind of attitude shift into how do we actually become provisioners rather than protectors. So shopkeepers rather than gatekeepers. I think another thing we have to think about is, rather than focusing just on the data itself, focus on the actions that are taken as a result of what decisions will be made with this data. And how do I help people with that decision? Not just how do I help them give the right data, but what will they do once they've made a decision?
How is that actionable?
Yeah, exactly so. And what actions do you do? That often gives you a greater insight than just thinking about what data I need to give them, but actually how they're going to do it. So what I mean by that is, for example, some actions may be very specific, and they include, with this data, they will place an order of a certain value. Another action can be very vague, such as, with this data, they may set sales targets. And we don't know what those sales targets will be, and there's lots of other impacts to that. But the way in which that will be consumed will actually affect very much the format of the data that you give them, the precise data that you give them, the accuracy of the data that you give them. I'll give you an example from my presentation. It's kind of a funny one. There was a sales dashboard that I was showing, and it was projecting quarterly sales. It's a typical sales dashboard. It goes through all the prospects and the potential customers, and it gives them a weighting depending on how likely they are potentially to buy. And at the end, it gives a sales proposal or sales forecast. The sales forecast was something like $7,495,087.68.
Of course,
ridiculously accurate.
It's really important to
exactly,
have that level of detail.
There was no decision that could be made with that dashboard that couldn't have been made just as effectively if it said $7.5 billion.
Yeah.
You could easily round it up. Now you've got 2 numbers to read rather than like 8 numbers or 10 numbers to read.
We as data professionals we're always thinking about accuracy.
Right, exactly. And yet we could have given people much more actionable data, and data they're more likely to use. If we thought more about the format and what they were actually going to do with it.
Okay. And do you think in that case, is there perhaps a use case where a user would look at that and say, oh, that's a really big number, that's an order of magnitude larger or smaller than something I'm comparing it to.
Sure.
I now want to see the detail and I want to look at the numbers behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I talked about this pattern that we use as analysts. The first stage of the pattern is orientation. What am I looking at? Where can I go here? And what is it I'm actually seeing? That could be things like how fresh is the data? What data domain am I actually looking at? Is it up to date? That sort of thing. And then glimpsing, which is, how do I spot something I'm interested in? That's a big number. I need to be able to glimpse that. The data has to be able to show me that that's a big number. And then, having glimpsed something, examining it. How do I dig into it? How do I actually understand that number in more detail? And I'm not going to dig into everything. I'm only going to dig into the ones that I've glimpsed and think are interesting. And having examined it, sometimes I want to acquire it. And what I mean by that is, I want to do something with it. Okay. And now what is the action I take with that number? And how does the information architecture and how does the user experience help them to do that?
That's interesting. I was just in a session that Ike Ellis was giving about data warehouse design.
Great.
And he said something that I thought was insightful and related to something that you had said a number of years ago. He said that, in the big picture, sometimes the details don't matter. It's important that the data is reliable, but it's not important that the numbers are absolutely right at the cost of paying too much attention to data quality. So if you have some outliers, it's okay as long as the summation is still actionable and is still valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember a presentation you gave. It was specifically around data mining, but I think the concept is very sound. Where you said, not all predictions, or all predictions are wrong, but some of them are useful.
That's right.
Am I quoting you correctly?
Well, it's actually George Box, the statistician, who said that. Yes. Said all models are wrong or some is useful.
Yeah.
But then the next question is how wrong do they have to be before they're no longer useful?
Sure.
And that's really the balance you've got to find. But absolutely, you've got to remember that
the concept is very sound, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these things are wrong at some level.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. It's been great to see you again.
Yeah, you as well.